William has been inducted into an ancient order of British Knights in a ceremony at Windsor Castle. He's now a Knight of the Garter, all part of his steady elevation in rank as second in line to the throne.
Jonathan Williams recorded in his book Legions of Satan, written in 1781, that General Cornwallis revealed to General Washington that a holy war will now begin on America. And when it is ended, America will supposedly be the citadel of freedom, but her millions will unknowingly be the loyal subjects of the crown. Cornwallis went on to explain what would seem to be a self-contradiction, and he said this, quote, "Your churches will be used to teach the Jews' religion, and in less than 200 years, the whole nation will be working for divine world government. That government that they believe to be divine will be the British Empire. All religions will be permeated with Judaism without even being noticed by the masses, and they will all be under the invisible all-seeing eye of the grand architect of Freemasonry." And indeed, George Washington himself, ladies and gentlemen, was a Freemason, and he gave back through false religion what he had won with his army. This divine world government that Cornwallis spoke of was the religion of the New World Order. Now, the Jewish religion that Cornwallis was talking about is not the religion that most Jews in this world practice, but a new secular humanistic view that came out of the Lodge of the Mysteries, promoted under international Zionism and the concept of British Israelism. It is the tenet that the Anglo-Aryan race are the true Israelites.
This was a royal coming of age for the young man who will one day be king.
Well, Prince William is walking slightly ahead of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. They are bringing up the rear of that procession there. Prince William emerging for the very first time in his Garter robes, having been invested at midday today as the 1,000th Knight of the Garter. It's a bizarre sight, really, isn't it?
But also, she was about to go into campaigning on behalf of Palestinians. Now, you can imagine someone of Princess Diana's profile doing that. They would not have tolerated it. They could not have dealt with that. So I think that's why she was taken out.
By serving some higher purpose than ourselves. A shining purpose. The illumination of 1,000 points of light.
And this is what men have dreamed about for the ages, bringing the world together as one, united as one in peace, so that we can have prosperity and happiness and joy. And that is precisely what this hidden covenant is all about. It's about that message. And we're all going to become Israel. We all become spiritual Jews, the whole world. And yet we see all of this hatred against the Jews today. But we're all going to become spiritual Jews, everybody that's obedient to God. I wonder what is behind that anti-Jew hostility.
Was the largest tribe of Israel and the first to replace the god of Judaism with pagan fertility gods. The tribe of Dan became seafaring pirates, looting their way from Greece along the Mediterranean, leaving evidence of their migration route. Like signposts, they incorporated the name of Dan into the names of mountains, towns, and rivers, like the mighty river Danube. They raided their way up the coast of Europe and built settlements in the British Isles and in Scandinavia.
And they had a royal offshoot, and eventually became known by this royal offshoot, called the Merovingians. And the Merovingians set up the city.
And founded the Merovingian bloodline of kings, which began the European dynasties, and this was passed on in secret from father to son and mother to daughter, even unto this day.
NWO spells own, backwards. backwards, backwards, backwards.
Their royal family being descended from the house of David in a direct line and a relationship to Jesus Christ himself, have the divine right to rule. One of the myths that are propounded, and you will see more and more of it, is that Jesus did not die on the cross, but entered into a sexual relationship which may have included marriage with Mary of Magdalene, and founded the Merovingian bloodline of kings which began the European dynasties, and this is passed on in secret from father to son and mother to daughter, even unto this day.
The black nobility is a wealthy aristocracy of elite ruling families who solidified their power in the 12th century by intermarrying with the wealthy godfather families of Venice, Italy. During the bloodbaths of the Christian Crusades, this brutal Italian oligarchy captured the trading monopolies. Over the centuries, the black nobility have used their power and wealth to rape, plunder, and exploit every corner of the globe. The United States flag was designed after the British East India Company flag with 13 red and white stripes. Both flags copy the red and white striped sails of the Viking ships, which were the color standard for the tribe of Dan. After the crucifixion, a Jewish rebellion against Roman rule broke out in Jerusalem. The Roman soldiers destroyed Solomon's temple, burned Jerusalem, and eventually renamed the land of Israel Palestine. The Hebrew tribes dispersed from the land of Israel and joined together into a ferocious force of brutal seafaring warriors. They named themselves after their 6 great ancestors, the 6 Hebrew Hyksos kings who once ruled Egypt. The VI in their name, Vikings, is the Roman numeral for 6. 6 kings. Was the largest tribe of Israel and the first to replace the god of Judaism with pagan fertility gods. The tribe of Dan became seafaring pirates, looting their way from Greece along the Mediterranean, leaving evidence of their migration route. Like signposts, they incorporated the name of Dan into the names of mountains, towns, and rivers, like the mighty river Danube. They raided their way up the coast of Europe and built settlements in the British Isles and in Scandinavia. The country of Denmark literally means the mark of Dan. Carvings of snakes and dragons on their ships, the red and white stripes on their sails, and archaeological relics reveal that the tribe of Dan became none other than the dreaded Vikings.
The pagans arrived like stinging hornets, and spreading on all sides like fearful wolves, robbed, tore, and slaughtered not only beasts of burden, but even priests and monks and nuns. They came to the church of Lindisfarne and destroyed everything, trampled and polluted the holy places, their mouths froth, their eyes stare, they howl like wild beasts.
Joined by the Israeli tribe of Naphtali, they continued their reign of terror through the British Isles, accumulating massive amounts of wealth. Then the unthinkable happened. Their king, King Canute, was crowned King of England, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden in 1016 AD. And so the tribes of Israel had found a new homeland, and the throne of Israel had found a new throne, the throne of England. Danish royalty from the tribe of Dan intermarried and became related to almost all of the monarchies of Europe, including Queen Elizabeth of England. The bloodline of the tribe of Dan was firmly established in royal power circles. A unique Viking genetic disease called Dubitraz contracture, causing tightening of the tendons in the hand, give it a claw-like appearance. U.S. President Ronald Reagan and British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher contracted the Viking genetic disease and are believed to be descendants of the Vikings, and thus descendants of the tribe of Dan.
Here we go, turn the lights down.
The media has misled the public into believing that Queen Elizabeth II is a symbolic ceremonial figurehead with little or no real power, that she is a cold but harmless old relic who passes her time sipping tea at the palace. Nothing could be further from the truth. As British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II is the wealthiest, most powerful person on earth. She embodies the crown and supreme world power. Presidents of the United States are forbidden any title of nobility and are subservient to the monarch. The U.S. President is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces based at Camp David, which is known to insiders as Camp King David. Prime Ministers in Commonwealth nations like Canada and Australia are also subservient representatives of the British King or Queen. They are her spokesmen. The Governor-Generals of the Queen's Commonwealth nations represent and exercise the Queen's power on her behalf. What the general public doesn't realize is that their leaders are only representatives of the monarch and do not possess the power. They exercise the power. They do not reign, they rule. The monarch, on the other hand, reigns but does not rule, possesses the power but does not exercise it. By delegating her powers instead of exercising her powers, the Queen is left safely outside and above the conflicts and divisions of the political process. She is protected from becoming a target of political hostilities. Meanwhile, the general public is kept in the dark about the true powers that the Queen actually possesses, powers that she delegates but has not yet chosen to exercise. So what exactly are these powers that the Queen possesses but has not chosen to exercise? Her powers include the power to choose the Prime Minister and to dismiss the Prime Minister through her Governor-General, the power to dismiss ministers and the government, the power to dissolve Parliament and call new elections, the power to refuse legislation passed by Parliament, the power to command the armed forces and raise a personal militia. She has the power to read confidential government documents and intelligence reports, the power to declare a state of emergency and issue proclamations. She has the power to call elections and enact laws in Her Majesty's name. Few people realize that not a single law is passed without the Queen's consent. She has the power to exercise Crown prerogatives, which means the Queen can declare war through her Prime Minister without even the agreement of Parliament. She has the power to grant and bestow titles and honors like Sir, the power to pardon convicted criminals. So why has the Queen been allowed to legally possess all of these supreme powers? For the sake of tradition? What exactly is the meaning of the term the Crown? The Crown is defined as executive powers exercised in the name of the monarch. The actual crown itself, worn by the monarch, is a symbol of the Queen's executive powers. The Parliamentary Oaths Act of 1866 requires all leaders of 54 Commonwealth nations to swear an oath of loyalty to the Queen not to the people who elected them. I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, her heirs and successors according to law, so help me God. Those who do not swear allegiance to the Queen are deemed unfit for office, including the Prime Minister, police, military, judges, legislators, lawyers, and public servants. New citizens to the Queen's Commonwealth nations must swear allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen. Public land in the Queen's colonies like Canada is called Crown land and includes Aboriginal land. Government corporations are called Crown corporations. The Central Bank of Canada and the Canadian Mint are Crown corporations independent of most government controls.
Neither Canada nor Australia, two huge and independent countries in their own right, has dispensed with her services as their head of state.
Forms, stationery, and printing are printed by the Queen's printer. Canadian warships are called HMCS, Her Majesty's Canadian Ship, and in Australia they're called HMAS, Her Majesty's Australian Ship. Canada's National Police Force is called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. All government contracts are between a company or individual and Her Majesty. Court summons are issued in the name of the Queen, and all public inquiries are called royal commissions. Commonwealth money carries the Queen's image worldwide as a reminder of her authority. The Queen is the lifetime hereditary head of state of Great Britain and her colonies and is unelected and unaccountable. It is against the law to advocate the abolition of the monarchy.
After the revolution, the French started calling her the lady, but in English, the Queen is still the Queen.
Move, I tell you.
Originally, in India, Persia, and Arabia, she was male and weak.
Check, Your Grace.
But she changed sex in Europe in the Middle Ages and became the strongest of all chess pieces.
I fear the Queen is powerless now. The Queen is never powerless. For example...
What is the cost to British taxpayers to support the Queen and her blue blood entourage? The Public Accounts Committee and National Audit Office are forbidden to examine Queen Elizabeth Windsor's family finances, but the civil list payments are reviewed every 10 years. So for the year ended March 2002, the running expenses of the Windsor household were £7.9 million. Family spending, £35.3 million. Security, $30 million. And the list goes on. How much is the Queen actually worth? The Queen's wealth is divided into three categories. Her wealth as the monarch, her visible personal wealth, and her invisible personal wealth. The Queen's wealth as the monarch includes 54 Commonwealth nations worldwide, millions of acres of Crown land and resources, thousands of Crown corporations, and the corporate city-state of London, which is the capital of world finance. The Queen's visible personal wealth, which was accumulated tax-free until 1992, includes royal yachts, Rolls-Royces, racehorses, 5 castles, the world's largest collection of jewels, 20,000 old masterpieces, and billions of Class A shares in blue-chip stocks and bonds which have been invested and reinvested over and over again tax-free. Most of the Queen's family fortune was inherited from her ancestors' illegal opium trade with China and the black slave trade. In 1977, the Bank of England Nominees was established to hide the Queen's personal portfolio of wealth. As the British monarch, the Queen has access to privileged information, state secrets, and the world's top financiers. She is immune to accusations of insider trading or conflicts of interest. Her financial portfolio includes Rio Tinto, General Electric, Royal Dutch Shell, British Petroleum, Archer Daniels Midland, and the list goes on. The Queen's visible billions are but a tiny fraction of her invisible wealth accumulated through the black nobility. What is the black nobility? The black nobility is a wealthy aristocracy of elite ruling families who solidified their power in the 12th century by intermarrying with the wealthy godfather families of Venice, Italy. During the bloodbaths of the Christian Crusades, this brutal Italian oligarchy captured the trading monopolies. Over the centuries, the black nobility have used their power and wealth to rape, plunder, and exploit every corner of the globe. Dr. John Coleman's book, The Committee of 300, describes the history of assassinations, kidnappings, robbery, rape, blackmail, coercion, and terror committed by these inbred families on a grand scale. Today, they enrich themselves from the illegal drug and arms trade using well-distanced intermediaries. An estimated $280 billion in flight capital and drug money flows into their secret Swiss accounts. Who are these ruling black nobility families? They include the House of Hanover, Germany, the House of Habsburg, Austria, the House of Orange, Netherlands, the House of Liechtenstein in Liechtenstein, and most importantly, the House of Guelph in Britain. All of these family houses can be found on Queen Elizabeth II's family tree. The black nobility are the founders of the Committee of 300, which is also known as the Illuminati or Illuminated Ones. Queen Elizabeth II is head of the committee of these 300 ruling families. The Illuminati was formed to achieve one main objective, one world government called the New World Order. NWO spells own, backwards. All of today's think tanks originate from the Committee of 300 and include the Round Table, the CFR Council on Foreign Relations, the United Nations, the Bilderbergs, the Club of Rome, the RIIA, and the Trilateral Commission founded by David Rockefeller. Since the British colonization of America, many powerful American families have formed secret societies that cooperate with the black nobility, like the Skull and Bones fraternity at Yale University, which is rooted in German Freemasonry. Its exclusive members are some of America's most powerful and wealthy men, including 2 United States presidents, President George W. Bush and his father, President George Herbert Walker Bush. The Order of the Skull and Bones is located on the campus of Yale University. John Pogue is a Yale graduate and the producer of a Hollywood movie called Skulls. Chosen members enter a windowless hall on campus where they strip naked and lay inside a coffin. During the rituals, they reveal their innermost secrets, including the intimate details of their sexual history. Senior bonesmen dressed in robes chant over the new member in a symbolic death and rebirth ceremony. Each new member takes a vow, swearing a lifetime commitment to the brotherhood, secretly known as the Brotherhood of Death. The crossed bones symbolize the right of new members to double-cross and use any means possible on their rise to power. With advanced knowledge of the British victory, Nathan Rothschild spread lies that the British had been defeated, which caused a stock market crash. While panicked English investors sold their life savings, Nathan bought up their market shares for pennies on the dollar. When official news of the British victory over Napoleon was announced, the English stock market skyrocketed, and so did Nathan's wealth. In one foul swoop, the Demon Brothers had double-crossed the English masses and taken control of the Bank of England. Flaunting their stupendous wealth, the brothers went on a lavish spending spree. They bought mansions, fashionable clothes, and hosted extravagant parties. By 1818, they had picked the pockets of French investors by crashing the French government bond market. According to plan, the brothers formed the world's first international bank and named it N.M. Rothschild and Sons. The Pope became their most famous customer. The Catholic Church, which had financed the wholesale slaughter, torture, and looting of hundreds of thousands of Muslims during the Christian Crusades, were now doing business with the Demon Brothers. By 1823, the Rothschilds were guardians of the entire papal treasure and took over the financial operations of the Catholic Church. The Rothschilds bought controlling interest in England's British East India Shipping Company and the illegal opium trade with China. They offered junior partnerships to New England's leading American families. The Russell, Coolidge, Delano, Forbes, and Perkins families became fabulously rich, smuggling opium aboard their speedy clipper ships into China. In 1820, Samuel Russell bought out the Perkins Syndicate and ran the opium smuggling operation with his partner, Warren Delano Jr., who was the grandfather of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1842, the British stole Hong Kong from China in an opium drug deal called the Treaty of Nanking. The Russell family, who controlled the U.S. arm of the Rothschild drug smuggling operations, set up the Skull and Bones fraternity at Yale University. America's big money families formed the fraternity's inner power circle. Taft, Russell, Schiff, Harriman, Bush, Warburg, Guggenheim, Rockefeller, Stimson, Weyerhaeuser, Vanderbilt, Goodyear, and Pillsbury were all members. These families intermarried over the generations to form America's big money aristocracy. Skull and Bones member Alphonso Taft catapulted his son, William Taft, right into the top job at the White House. President Taft's 17th Amendment to the United States Constitution guaranteed the right of big money insiders to hand-pick senators and buy control of the United States Senate. Today, the most influential members of the CIA, the U.S. government, and big finance are Skull and Bonesmen. The Skull and Bones Brotherhood is rooted in Jewish Kabbalism and in European Freemasonry, which practices similar death and rebirth rituals. Freemasons are blindfolded, symbolically slain with a noose around their neck, and lowered into an open grave. Once raised from the grave, they must look towards a light called the morning star. The Latin translation for morning star is Lucifer. The phoenix bird and double-headed eagle are important symbols in Freemasonry. In Egyptian mythology, the phoenix bird is a god who rose to heaven in the form of a star like Lucifer after his fire immolation of death and rebirth. Freemasonry has a pyramid structure. The highest level is a 33rd degree Mason. Solomon's Temple in Israel was located at the 33rd parallel. Most Masons remain at the 3rd degree and provide a cover through their community charitable activities. The Illuminati at the top of the pyramid is the all-seeing eye. At the bottom are the unthinking, hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying, God-fearing debt slaves called the Goyim, or sheep. Giuseppe Mazzini of Italy was a 33rd degree Mason who replaced Adam Weishaupt as head of the Illuminati in 1834. Mazzini was a member of the Italian Carbonari and created the Mafia's blood rituals and secret oath. He gave the dreaded Cosa Nostra the name Mafia. Mafia is an acronym spelling the names of the original mafiosa godfathers: M for Mazzini, A for Otto Riza, F for Ferti, I for Incendi, and A for Avaligmenti. The Mafia arrived on American shores in the 1890s with Illuminati financing to establish underground networks and the black market system. Mazzini appointed America's Albert Pike as sovereign pontiff of Universal Freemasonry and the coordinator of the Illuminati U.S. activities. Pike was a Tennessee Ku Klux Klan judicial officer. A known Satanist, Pike indulged in phallic worship and the occult. He wore a satanic Baphomet symbol around his neck and used his bracelet to summon Lucifer. Pike used the KKK to keep blacks out of the Masonic lodges.
In August 1924, Imperial Wizard Hiram Wesley Evans organized a parade of 40,000 Klan members down Washington's Pennsylvania Avenue to the Washington Monument. This event proved the Klan had achieved power not just in the South and Midwest, but on a national level.
In a letter to Mazzini dated August 15, 1871, Pike graphically outlined a blueprint for 3 planned world wars. World War I would weaken, topple, and destroy the powerful Tsarist government in Russia. World War II would pit Great Britain against Germany, destroy Nazism, and create the Zionist state of Israel. World War III would be ignited by fueling aggression between the Zionists of Israel and the Arab world, who would eventually destroy one another. Social, political, and economic chaos would then force the masses to accept one world army and one world government ruled by the Illuminati. In Pike's famous Masonic guidebook called Morals and Dogma, he writes, "Lucifer, light-bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not." Albert Pike was a Confederate general in the American Civil War. The Rothschilds sent British agents to conspire with Pike and with U.S. politicians and provoke the rebellion that started the American Civil War. The Rothschilds, whose massive fortune had been built on provoked wars and war loans, offered loans to both sides of the Civil War at 24 to 36% interest. When President Abraham Lincoln tried to stop the loan sharks by issuing greenback dollars interest-free, a gunman with European connections named John Wilkes Booth shot him down in cold blood. Following the Civil War, Albert Pike was convicted of treason and sent to prison, but President Andrew Johnson, a 33rd-degree Mason, pardoned him. One of Johnson's first acts as president was to veto the Civil Rights Act for blacks, who had been shipped in chains to their wealthy American slave owners. Stealing slaves was a crime, but torturing and beating them was not. A statue of Albert Pike, a convicted traitor, Satanist, 33rd-degree Mason, and Ku Klux Klan racist, stands today in the heart of Washington, D.C. On the opposite side of America stands an honorary statue of Giuseppe Mazzini, the Illuminati mafia boss who put the letter M for Mazzini into the name Mafia. Close by is another and Orient Temple Masons to the Masons of America, celebrating the first Masonic republic called the United States of America. 14 U.S. presidents, including George Washington, are known to be 33rd-degree Masons.
love your eyes. And don't you ever say I did. I love your eyes. And don't you ever say I did.